Saito is a handyman who works in a company and can repair all kinds of tools. Currently, he is unlocking the door of a mother's house, which is losing her key. But sadly, when Saito unlocked the door, he was only given a pittance. Many people considered Saito useless and underestimated his abilities. They always pay a price that is far below the standard fee that has been set. Saito's superior also thought that someone else could replace his ability. So, Saito could leave this company if he didn't want to accept this job anymore. But one day, he is suddenly transferred to another world with an even more ancient era than Earth. Long story short, after Saito lived in another world, he got a party of 3 people: Old Wizard Morlock, Fairy Lafanpan, and one night girl, Railza. Currently, they were in a dungeon that was usually used to complete quests. Saito's abilities in this world were very useful to his friends because no one else had Saito's abilities. He can open locked rooms in every labyrinth passage of the dungeon. Even Saito could open a treasure chest to get money or gold inside. Because of that, Railza secretly loves Saito because he can always be relied on in any situation. When Saito managed to open the treasure chest in the room, it turned out to be just a trap, and Railza immediately killed the monsters that appeared from this chest. Afterward, Railza's helmet was damaged because they had been doing quests in this dungeon for a long time. Then Saito asked Railza to take off her helmet so Saito could fix it. Railza removed her helmet while blushing because Saito was concerned about her.
お前も犬好きなのか？
ああ、鍵開けるだけじゃなくて便利屋だから。
便利屋？鍵屋じゃないのか？何でもできるんだな。でもすごいんだな。
After that, Saito's party relaxed in a large field. Saito was curious about Morlock because he was a great wizard but unreliable at the party. Railza and Lafa explained that Morlock had over level 80, and his level was far away compared to Railza, Lafa, and Saito. Morlock had actually retired to become an adventurer due to his old age, but he was still an adventurer even now. Before Saito entered this world, Railza and Lafa had a hard time at a party with Morlock. He always forgot magic spells and was a pain in the ass for Railza and Lafa when fighting so many monsters. Even Morlock forgot where the dungeon was to teleport himself and occasionally forgot his own party members. Moreover, Morlock forgot his human form and suddenly found himself in a group of undead monsters. Even though Morlock was a forgetful old man, Railza and Lafa were lucky to have a party member like Morlock. Railza is Morlock's adopted daughter, and Morlock loves Railza very much. At that time, Railza and Lafa had died in dungeons, and Morlock had no more mana to use magic. So Morlock immediately dragged Railza and Lafa's corpses out of the dungeon. Then he sold all his equipment and armor, Railza and Lafa. After that, he immediately paid and revived Railza and Lafa back in the church. But Morlock doesn't sell Railza's bikini outfit, and Railza is still curious about why Morlock keeps those clothes. Then they would head back to town together, and suddenly Morlock had the usual back pain. Because of that, Lafa healed Morlock's pain with her magic. But the problem is that Lafa always asks for payment from anyone using her magic services. Then Saito offered to help carry Lafa's bag because she looked tired of carrying coins with such a small body. But Lafa refused because she would still carry her own bag. Because of that, Saito made a prettier and easier bag for Lafa to carry on her back. Then Lafa wanted to pay for Saito's services, but Saito didn't want to be paid by Lafa, so he ordered Lafa to cure Morlock's back pain long term. Initially, Lafa disagreed with this, but since this was Saito's decision, Lafa immediately did as he was told. Several days later, Saito was sizing up Railza's armor. He measured using the meter he brought over from the previous world. Railza and Lafa were confused by the units of measurement on Saito's meter. Saito explained that the units of measurement in his world were meters, centimeters, and millimeters. Then Saito was curious, what is the name of the unit of measurement in this world? What is the basis for knowing the size? Railza and Lafa answered that the unit of measurement in this world is called Madaraka. Lafa's body is about the size of 1 Madaraka. But suddenly, they fell silent because they did not want to explain how to find out the basic size of Madaraka. Because of that, Morlock would passionately explain Madaraka to Saito. In ancient times, the founder of the kingdom in this region was named the first Madaraka. He has a big body, a very long, strong, and durable Mr. P. Because of that, the first Madaraka had many wives, and they felt very satisfied and enjoyable when playing in bed. Thanks to the legendary Mr. P, Madaraka's wives could give birth to more than 300 children. Because of that, the scholars of that time named the world's unit of measurement Madaraka. Then the length of Madaraka's Mr. P becomes the basis for the size of one Madaraka. Well, due to this embarrassing story, Railza and Lafa had a hard time telling it to Saito since they were girls. Then Saito thought that if Lafa's body size is 1 Madaraka, it is equal to 30 centimeters. Saito also began to imagine Madaraka's Mr. P through Lafa's body size. Of course, Lafa blushed because her body was too small to feel such pleasure. The next day, Saito visited a blacksmith shop run by a teenage girl named Mavina. Saito's friends in this world already knew that Saito was from another world because Saito's abilities were very useful in any case. Shortly after, a knight visits Mavina's shop. When the knight looked at the items there, Saito greeted the knight because it turned out to be Railza. Railza and Lafa had been following Saito since this morning. Railza was curious about Mavina and Saito's relationship because they always seemed to get along well with each other. In Lafa's mind, she was amazed by Saito because he could recognize Railza even though she was wearing another armor. Afterward, an adventurer wanted to sell a sword drop from a monster dungeon. He deliberately lied to Mavina because he wanted to earn money. The sword he sold was a broken sword that had only magic added to it. Now the sword has no effect because he has removed the magic. But it turns out that Mavina is the one who gets a huge profit. The sword the adventurer was selling just now was cheap when compared to the mithril material this sword had. Mithril was the most expensive material in this world, so Mavina and Saito could refine this sword into other swords at a high selling price. On the other hand, Railza still stalks Saito because she is jealous of Mavina. Several days later, Saito's party returned to dungeon quests again. As usual, Morlock kept forgetting the magic spell he wanted to cast. Because of that, Railza immediately kills the monster to protect Saito. Railza said Morlock would rather retire because he always forgets magic spells when fighting every monster. But Morlock doesn't want to leave this party because only his attacks have the biggest damage area. Lafa couldn't use large-scale magic because her magic prioritized protection and support only. Hearing all that, Saito wanted Morlock to teach him many magic spells. Saito wanted to be able to use magic so he could help the party fight monsters. After several hours of experimentation, it turned out that Saito couldn't use the magic taught by Morlock. The reason was that Saito didn't have the mana to release the magic. Before long, many goblins suddenly attacked them. Railza won't be able to fight them because there are too many. When Morlock wanted to use magic, he again forgot his magic spell. Saito immediately reminded Morlock of the spell he wanted to cast, and thanks to Saito, they managed to exterminate many of the goblins in the dungeon. Even though Saito couldn't use magic, he could memorize some of Morlock's magic spells. Because of that, Railza loved Saito even more. Then they continued exploring the dungeon and arrived at a room with a treasure chest. But this area is in T-magic, so they can't fight optimally if a monster appears suddenly again. Saito tried to open the treasure chest there, and after a few seconds, it turned out to be a trap, just like Minecraft. This resulted in Saito falling into a cave, and his leg was broken. After several hours, Saito's friends finally managed to find another way to save Saito. Saito didn't expect to have friends like this in another world. This was very different from when he was on Earth back then.
斎藤の代わりはどこにもいないからな。バカね。
わしらが見捨てるわけないじゃろ。
お前の代わりはいくらでもいる。ああ、どうもお世話になっ。ありがとう。
行こう。
On the other hand, a tank mage named Jibungle is hunting in the forest around town. He comes from the dwarf race and is passionate about magic abilities, but the way he used magic was probably different from the other magicians. He always blocked the opponent's attack first, and after that, Jibungle released his explosion magic at them. Many people don't care about Jibungle's existence because he's weird at using magic. But that doesn't matter to him because Jibungle doesn't care about those who talk about it either. However, sometimes Jibungle also feels very lonely because no one else he can talk to. In the innermost labyrinth, around the 13th floor, Liliza and Gibble were resting to continue exploring the labyrinth again. Gibble said that the deeper the dungeon floor, the monsters also became more resistant to magic, so Gibble suggested that Liliza strengthen her weapons first and return here again. But Liliza didn't listen to Gibble's words because she wanted to continue exploring the labyrinth on the 13th floor.
やだ行く
A few months later, Sayato's party was fighting a high-level giant eel. But unfortunately, Railza is very afraid of eels because she hates slimy monsters. Seeing that, Sayato was going to replace Railza to fight the monster. Morlock and Lafa also helped Sayato avoid getting hit by the giant eel. After the monster was killed, Morlock paid Lafa's magic fees as usual. Meanwhile, Sayato was doing something with the eel monster. Morlock and Lafa are curious, "What are you doing?" And Sayato replied that he would cook this monster's meat.
まさか
Of course, Sayato's friends were shocked, and Morlock said that the taste of the giant eel's meat was very strange. They didn't expect that Sayato would eat that disgusting meat, but Sayato asked them to wait until Sayato finished serving this food. Then Sayato asked Mavina for a long needle which is used to kill secretly like an assassin. Mavina immediately took the needle and asked Sayato, "Who do you want to kill? Railza, want a needle with poison in it. If you want to kill Railza, don't do it with a small object like this. You should order her to drink poison." Sayato replies that he won't kill anyone and asks Mavina to get a clean and new needle. After all, why is Mavina always offended when talking about Railza?
飲まそうが
なんでラエルザなの
After getting a lot of long needles from Mavina, Sayato immediately cut the monster's body enough for their lunch today. Sayato wanted to cook this eel by grilling it like a barbecue. Sayato explained to them that the eel had a layer of fat on the skin, which was not tasty. If they could properly cook this monster, it must be very delicious. Sayato could have a lot of cooking knowledge because he had a license as a chef in the previous world. Of course, Lafa was surprised that cooking like this required a license. Sayato's friends are amazed that he can do anything and is versatile. After serving the food, Lafa and Morlock tried Sayato's food first. They were very happy because of Sayato's delicious cooking and invited Railza to eat this eel meat. Of course, Railza refuses because eels are disgusting monsters. Then Lafa teased Railza like this.
サイトが作ったものを食べられないんだ
Railza enjoyed the food, and her feelings for Sayato deepened even more. Then Morlock told Sayato to open a restaurant to earn a lot of money, but Sayato didn't want to do it. Eels will become extinct if too many are killed without knowing how long they will respawn or reproduce. A few days later, they went to the dungeon again to look for treasure chests as usual. Sayato had learned from his mistakes back then, and he became even more careful when opening each treasure chest. There were many types of traps attached to each chest, and Sayato didn't want to take high risks if there was one he didn't know about. For example, this treasure chest. He told his friends to look for another treasure chest. Then they found it, and Sayato looked around the treasure chest. He recognized this trap, and he could definitely overcome it. Sayato started using his pliers to cut one of the 3 wires on top of the crate. There is one more wire left to cut, and it turns out like this.
金属だけを溶かすスライムじゃそれは伝説の魔物
結構おっぱい大きいでしょ
A few days later, Sayato's party was hunting and camping in the forest to find a new atmosphere. Of course, their dinner was cooked by Sayato. Then Morlock had a brief urge to urinate, but his back suddenly hurt as usual. Morlock asked Lafa for help to cure his back pain. Lafa says that Morlock should pay for her services, but sadly, Morlock's money has run out. Because of that, Lafa didn't want to help Morlock. If none of her friends had life-threatening injuries, Lafa would not help them without money. Then Sayato and Railza gave 2 gold coins to Lafa to heal Morlock. Even though Lafa somewhat disliked their attitude, she still cured Morlock's back pain. After that, Morlock peed and slept first, while Lafa wanted to go to the nearby river. Then Sayato asked Railza about Lafa, why she always needs money whenever she helps others, even though the prizes from the dungeon are divided equally among each member. Then Railza invited Sayato to secretly meet Lafa around the river.
あれは
Railza explained that Lafa was a moonlight fairy and had once lived on the moon. Lafa and her friends have very beautiful faces, like angels. But the moon goddess was angry with the fairies because they were too beautiful. She cursed the fairies and banished them from the moon. They must present gold coins every full moon night. If they are late or don't offer gold coins, the bodies of the fairies will continuously shrink until they become dust grains. When Railza first met Lafa, her body size was much bigger than it is now. Because of that, Lafa had to keep earning a lot of money to offer it to the moon goddess. After hearing Railza's story, Saito was willing to help Lafa over and over again every day. After all, Saito's life in this world wasn't too extravagant, and he still had some spare cash. But Railza forbade Saito's actions because Lafa had great pride. She didn't want others to pity her, and Lafa hated that pity. Then Saito realized that such an all-around handyman apparently had other things difficult for him to do. But Saito wasn't going to give up so easily, and during his next dungeon exploration, Saito purposely asked for grace magic from Lafa. Lafa's grace magic can be used as a temporary antidote when hit by a trap from a treasure chest. Well, actually, Saito knew that the treasure chest didn't have any traps. After a while, Saito managed to open the treasure chest, but it turns out that there is a secret trap that Saito just found out about, and he suddenly enters a dungeon on another floor with Railza. Lafa's grace magic couldn't counteract it because it was a teleportation trap. Then Saito and Railza arrived at a dungeon floor that they hadn't explored yet. Railza invited Saito to explore this labyrinth together. Morlock and Lafa weren't hit by the teleportation trap, because their magic resistance was very high. Unlike Saito and Railza, they immediately fell silent for a moment, and Railza suddenly blushed because she could finally be alone with Saito. Her tsundere nature slightly appeared, and Saito said Railza should stay with him. Saito tried not to become a burden to Railza later. Then Railza was slightly irritated because Saito didn't understand her feelings. Well, the nature of women is difficult to predict, complicated. When they were exploring the labyrinth, suddenly there was a giant golem made of iron. Then Railza told Saito to stay behind cover, and if Railza lost or died, Saito had to run away from there. In Railza's mind, this iron golem is very strong because it can only be created by high-class magicians. She planned to buy time so Saito could run as far as possible. Railza told Saito to run away because this iron golem was very strong. But suddenly, Saito silently climbed up on the golem's body, which surprised Railza. Then Saito tried to climb onto the golem's shoulder and scattered the liquid slime he had stored up at that time. Of course, the iron golem melted, and just as Railza was about to attack the golem, suddenly the golem's hand grabbed Saito while squeezing him. Railza immediately cut the golem's body, and unfortunately, Saito's body was crushed, and he was bleeding profusely. When Saito was semi-conscious, he thought about how he could be transferred or transported to another world. Since childhood, Saito has already had a multi-talented ability. He can do anything and keep trying to get maximum results. But he's not number one or the greatest. He is just an ordinary person who is versatile with his abilities and experience. But when he becomes useful to others, he knows his abilities can be replaced by anyone with higher quality work standards. Then when he finished work, there was an incident that he couldn't remember, and suddenly he was in another world. But Saito felt happy to be in another world because many people always needed his abilities. Back to Railza's perspective. She was very panicked because the man she loved was dying now. Railza initially wanted to use a preservative magic spell to stop Saito's bleeding. But sadly, Lafa and Morlock weren't there, and Railza had no idea how long it would take them to get to this place. Then Railza remembered a potion given by Morlock that time. Morlock said that the potion was called Life Drop, and it could be used to instantly heal people. Morlock advised Railza to save and use the potion until she got another potion. Then Railza immediately drank the potion to Saito in a romantic way. Railza wanted Saito to understand her great feeling of love one day. Railza only had this one potion for the one man that was most precious to her. Hours later, Saito regained his full senses, and Lafa and Morlock were already there. Saito thought that it was Lafa who had cured him of the previous bleeding. but Lafa said that Railza cured Saito with her precious potion. If Railza hadn't done it, Saito would have died and would not have been able to be revived in the church. Then Saito apologized to Railza for causing her trouble. But Railza didn't answer Saito's words and just stood there for hours. Because of that, Lafa deliberately teased Railza about how she had drunk Saito the potion.
秘密です。
On the other side of the labyrinth, an elf knight adventurer, Anril, and a support priestess, Ninia, were looking for monster materials to sell to the Adventurers Guild. Anril can't use magic, and she always depends on Ninia. Anril can only fight with normal physical attacks. Of course, Anril must have taken quite a bit of damage from fighting a monster without a shield. But Ninia is always willing to heal Anril's wounds at any time. Anril felt very happy and calm when Ninia cast healing magic on her. Because of that, Anril really likes Ninia's magic. Okay, that's from Anril's point of view. Now we come to Ninia's perspective. Ninia is a priestess who can't do powerful magic. She can only use ordinary magic and is very different from magicians with high attack power. Even her healing abilities could be said to be mediocre. But despite her weak abilities, she is very happy to see others have injuries, especially Anril. If Anril was injured, Ninia could heal her in a perverted way. This was Ninia's greatest sin as a priestess, but she could no longer avoid it. She really loves Anril's body, and always treats Anril in a perverted way every day. Ninia always manipulated her words to do that to Anril. Ninia feels that Anril is hers forever.
私のものになっていく気がするから。
In the palace, the king wants to ask the heroes to quickly fight the Demon King. But sadly, none of the heroes have been summoned from another world or chosen from this world. Because of that, the king asks the prime minister to look after the kingdom temporarily. Even though the king is old, he still wants to fight the Demon King alone to protect the country. Then when the king had gone to the Demon King's territory, the rebels suddenly came to the palace. They wanted to take the treasure in this palace, and the prime minister had to obey them. If the prime minister resists, he will die. Initially, the prime minister was scared because the king was not here, but suddenly.
なんでしょう。わしがいない間何かあった？いいえ、特に。
Well, this prime minister has tremendous power, but he doesn't realize it. The king who had returned to the palace was also surprised because he had just realized that there were rebels who wanted to steal the treasure. The prime minister said that these stone-dead rebels would be thrown out tomorrow. The garbage man is going to the palace soon. Then the prime minister asked the king, "What about the Demon King? Did you manage to kill him?" The king said that the Demon King's strength was mediocre. Even the king was not willing to kill him because he wanted the Demon King to be his friend.
こんな話し合う人、処刑なんかしないよ。どうし話弾むな。全然弾んでないし。
あれが反乱した軍団長の代わりに新しく配属された騎士か。
ごめんね、魔王ちゃん。窮屈でしょ、そのマスク。
A few weeks later, Saito and Lafa were touring the city together, but accidentally peek at the back of Mavina's shop through the window, and it turns out that there is an otherworldly version of Take Me Out. A 42-year-old knight, Borg, is looking for a beautiful, thick, and 20-year-old and above wife. Then Mavina's friend, I'll call her Lily, said that Borg was too old to get a wife aged 20 and over. So Lily advised Borg to marry a woman the same age as him, and she still had the strength to satisfy Borg. But Borg still doesn't want that woman because she is fat and wants to find a girl aged 20 and over. Borg has long been introverted and only works as a knight. He wants to get more pleasure, but Lily still couldn't suggest girls over 20 years old to Borg. After all, Borg's current stamina wouldn't be equal if playing with a 20-year-old girl in bed. Borg was a level 12 knight, which was way too low for a knight's standards. There is no guarantee that a woman to be happy if Borg women's criteria are too high. Saito was surprised because this world also had a Take Me Out event. Lafa explained that this country is very peaceful, and anyone can become an adventurer. Everyone can also learn magic until they master it. Many women also become adventurers because they want to work alone without relying on men. Each labyrinth in the dungeon is also the main income for adventurers. But as the number of adventurers increased, more and more treasure chests were opened. The income of adventurers decreased, resulting in many people having difficulty finding couples. When Lafa wanted to explain more about the labyrinth, Lafa suddenly told Saito to quickly look at the window again.
大魔導士の妻になる気は。
いえ、まず登録料を。
モーロックさん。
ここで結婚できると聞いて。
お家帰ろうね。
A few days later, Sayato's party explores the labyrinth again and encounters a succubus. When they wanted to fight her, suddenly Sayato was hit by magic from the succubus to make love there. Lafa and Morlock had to quickly cast a null magic spell to save Sayato, but apparently they were late because of this. Well, Railza was mad because she didn't want Sayato to belong to the succubus. But suddenly, Railza became nervous because magic's effect was still in Sayato's mind. Sayato started to approach Railza romantically. Railza's heart was beating fast, and she wanted to do it with Sayato in a more comfortable place. Then when Sayato wanted to kiss Railza on the lips,
もう魅了解きましたけど、もうちょっと待った方がよかった。うるさい。
After Sayato was rescued, Morlock suddenly approached the succubus. Of course, Sayato wanted to help Morlock as soon as possible. But Railza said Morlock wouldn't be hit by such weak charm magic. Morlock had deliberately seduced the succubus to become his wife.
魔力いっぱい出るよ。
いっぱい
Several days later, Sayato's party was in a labyrinth full of traps. They couldn't continue exploring the dungeon because this trap would sting Railza's armor. Because of that, Morlock told Railza to take off her armor now. Morlock will bring Railza's armor with magic, and they can continue exploring the dungeon again. At first, Railza was embarrassed to do it, but Lafa teased Railza again because she had shown her body to Sayato then. Well, even if it wasn't on purpose, then Sayato took off his clothes and told Railza to wear this so that Railza wouldn't be embarrassed. After Railza put on her beloved man's clothes, they would continue dungeon exploration again. But apparently, there was an unexpected incident. One day, Sayato was studying Morlock's many magic spells as usual. By the way, Sayato's party lived in the same house, but they had their own rooms, and now Sayato was in Morlock's room. Sayato could memorize this many book spells, but the main problem, he still couldn't chant them properly. Then Sayato saw that one magic book was sealed using a padlock. After Sayato took the book, he didn't feel any magic seal from Morlock. Because of that, Sayato tried to open it since it was his first time seeing this book. But it turns out the book's contents are often used by Morlock and Railza.
私の分は
ライルザも
こうしてしゃぶると
キノコ
そうじゃよ。誰にもつまみ食いされないよう隠しとったんじまったな。
A few days later, Sayato's party manages to defeat the dragon in the labyrinth, but unfortunately, Sayato's beloved pliers are damaged when he cut off the dragon's mustache. Sayato was very sad because it was the only item that could cut anything easily. Lafa and Railza were surprised that Sayato could be sad like this, and it was the first time they had seen Sayato sad. Sayato said he couldn't repair pliers because he wasn't a blacksmith. Then Morlock said an intelligent blacksmith was in the deepest part of this dungeon floor. His name is Dombine. He comes from the dwarf race and has extraordinary blacksmithing skills. He can shape metal into any shape he wants. He even made armor for the elf race to the giant race. But unfortunately, many people accuse Dombine of being a fraud. Dombine Blacksmith's ability was simply too fast when compared to others. In fact, they think Dombine is just a man who wants to make big profits with this easy and quick job. Because of that, Dombine hated humans and was alone in the deepest part of this dungeon. His house is filled with 108 locks with a very high difficulty level. However, it seemed the padlock challenge had no effect on Sayato.
ガチコは大変だった。
After Sayato's pliers were repaired, Sayato was very happy because the materials of his pliers were now mithril, much stronger than the iron that comes from these pliers manufacturers. Sayato also paid Dombine with dragon scales which cost a fortune, but this was balanced with what Sayato got. Then Sayato wanted to ask Dombine to make something more, but Sayato didn't say it because that thing was likely too dangerous in another world. Then they ate together while chatting with Dombine. After that, Sayato chatted with Railza like usual every night. Sayato asked Railza, "What would you think if a woman, a child, or a weak person could kill another person using an easy-to-use weapon?" Railza replied that she would definitely lose her job as an adventurer if the weapon existed. In Sayato's mind, he actually wanted to ask Dombine to make a rifle or a gun so that Sayato could be useful in battle. But Saito wouldn't ask for that because this world system would also change in the future. Then Saito asked Railza to teach him how to use a sword properly. But Railza had gone to bed earlier because she was exhausted and in a drunken state.
でもやっぱ鉄砲欲しい。
One day, Saito was ill with a high fever from overwork. Morlock and Lafa didn't have magic to cure Saito's fever, and he had to rest completely at home. Railza and the others would also be looking to make money for Saito's share. Railza was worried about Saito's condition, but Saito said he wasn't very useful in battle, so they should be able to exterminate the monsters without Saito. After Saito recovered within a few days, Railza suddenly came into Saito's room carrying Morlock and Lafa. She wanted Saito to recover quickly so he could do the quest again. It turned out that Saito had always helped them in any way for a long time, carrying Railza's weapon, protecting Lafa when casting spells, helping Morlock remember magic spells, etc. Without Saito, they had a hard time making money. A few weeks later, Saito was visiting Mavina's shop and chatting warmly as usual. Mavina felt that Saito had been in this world for 6 months already. Saito said that recently he was thinking about his fate in the previous world. He works in a cruel company, with a low salary, long working hours, many tough job demands, etc. When Saito complained to his supervisor, Saito was fired because his supervisor thought that Saito was too lazy to work, whereas Saito always finished his work on time and rarely had any problems with customers. At that time, Saito thought of killing himself or just dying right now. However, Saito suddenly gets hit by a truck and ends up in another world. Saito didn't experience death or bleeding. He felt that he was simply transported or transferred to another world. After that, Saito enters Railza's room by accident. Of course, Saito was bewildered by the situation, and Railza was also in a naked sleeping position. Meanwhile, Railza thought Morlock had entered the wrong room again as usual, but when Railza opened her eyes, she was shocked and wanted to kill Saito. But fortunately, Morlock stopped Railza's actions. Morlock said he didn't feel magic or mana in Saito's body. That meant Saito was from another world without a summons from this world. Because of that, Railza didn't kill Saito, and Saito became a member of their party until now. After hearing the story, Mavina is still curious about Railza. Does she still want to kill Saito? Mavina knows that Railza always follows Saito wherever he goes.
気になるなら入ればいいじゃん。
Somewhere, there is a grandfather who is skilled in using magic. He is called the Power Wizard, and always carries around a very large and heavy staff of the God Tree. But he was too lazy to cast magic spells and preferred this fighting style. On the other hand, there is a ninja who always kills and steals anything from adventurers. He is named Kisurugi and has a unique ability. Kisurugi always stops his enemies through shadows like Shikamaru and kills them sadistically. Not only adventurers, he also has aims at a young 400-year-old witch named Lafa. But unfortunately, Kisurugi's abilities were overcome by Lafa, and Kisurugi's main mission failed. A few days later, Kisurugi came to Lafa again, bringing his 2 new friends from the demon race. I'll just call them Fred and Gred. Fred and Gred immediately used their magic so that Kisurugi could stop Lafa through her shadow. Of course, Lafa was shocked because her body couldn't move and would soon die. Then when Kisurugi approached Lafa, it turns out that Kisurugi is in love with Lafa and has been watching her for a long time. A few weeks later, the kingdom holds a contest to choose a new hero to save the world. Anyone who can draw a sword, he or she will be chosen as a hero. There are several candidates who took part in this competition. But sadly, this world is not in danger, and the Demon King has become the king's friend. 3 kingdom officials want to choose randomly from several candidates. I'll call the 3 kingdom officials Gor, Gar, and Jur. A teenager named Kainz is chosen as a hero. He was a knight who could use any magic, and had an ordinary face. Then Jur ordered the kingdom worker to unlock the sword as Kainz drew the sword on the stage. The next hero chosen is Lychee, a talented but lazy young witch. Even so, Lychee is a beautiful girl, which is the basis for her being chosen as a hero. Lastly, Momfi, a priest, was chosen as a hero without participating in a selection or competition. It could happen because he was the nephew of one of the officials in this kingdom.
パーティーには女の子入れてね。
Actually, there was something the kingdom officials wanted to do. They don't know what tasks to do because the world is so peaceful. But the people of this country are also very enthusiastic about the existence of heroes. Because of that, the kingdom officials held a live stream on the Isekai Tube platform about the activities of the heroes. Many citizens were watching through the crystal ball and greatly admired the heroes. But there was one incident that made the desires of the boys and girls peak. At night, Lychee purposely uses sleeping magic on Momfi because she wants to make love to Kaints in the woods around town.
よし行こう。
It turns out that they were framed by Momfi. He had been preparing for this for a long time, and he managed to get Kaints to make love to Lychee indirectly in public. One day, Sayato's party was eating at one of the restaurants in town. Sayato was still thinking about the incident while trapped in the labyrinth with Railza. Sayato felt that he heard the sound of a familiar machine there, but he didn't know, was it the machine for moving the golem or something else? Then Railza said that the labyrinth was located in the 10th floor dungeon, and they rushed there to confirm Sayato's curiosity. By the way, this dungeon is managed by the country, and anyone must pay 1 gold coin every time they enter. As they made their way to the 10th floor dungeon, they also searched for treasure chests as usual. But sadly, many chests have already been taken by adventurers. Recently, many adventurers have been out of work because of that. After they walked through the labyrinth for hours, they finally arrived at the place where Railza and Sayato kissed. I mean, when they fought the iron golems. It turned out that there was only an empty passage without any room, and Sayato apologized to them. He felt guilty for wasting money on such a useless thing. But suddenly, Sayato heard the machine sound again, and just as he caught up to it, it turned out that the sound of the machine came from a vacuum robot. Of course, Sayato was surprised that something in his world could exist in this world. Then Sayato told his friends about the vacuum robot, which had already entered the small hole in the stone wall. At first, Lafa wanted to go there to help Sayato, but Sayato forbade her because the vacuum robot was dangerous for Lafa. Then Sayato felt that this stone wall was different from other walls, like there was a bit of magic aura protecting it. After Morlock checked it, it turned out that the wall was made of camouflage magic. Morlock didn't sense it because he wasn't using his magic detector. Then Morlock removed the magic with the help of a spell from Sayato.
正しき断りのもとに。正しき断りのもとに。
Turns out they found a tunnel dungeon to a wider labyrinth. Because of that, the tunnel is called the Sayato Tunnel because he found it, and a new adventure has begun. Many adventurers had gathered at the entrance to the dungeon after hearing the announcement of the new labyrinth. It had been long since no adventurer had managed to find the tunnel to the wider labyrinth dungeon. Dungeons are bustling again, which makes adventurers excited to find treasure and slay monsters in each labyrinth. Likewise, Sayato's party was very excited about this new tunnel. In Sayato's mind, he didn't want anyone else to take the vacuum robot first. It will be very useful for him later. Then Lafa said the crowd was unfair since Sayato was the first to discover the new labyrinth. Sayato had said that the country managed this dungeon, so this incident was only natural for adventurers. After all, Sayato's party could enter the dungeon for free for 10 years. This was a great advantage when compared to other adventurers. Then Morlock asked Sayato, "You are still curious about the round machine from yesterday, right?" Sayato said that he was indeed a bit curious about that thing. In Railza's mind, she guessed that Sayato still wanted to return to his world. If that happened, Railza would definitely be sad because she would never see Sayato again. Before long, Kaints greeted Sayato because Sayato had done a lot for the adventurer's life. This new labyrinth became a new adventure for them, and Kaints, as the hero, represented the adventurers to thank Sayato. Sayato was surprised that there was a title of hero in this world. Morlock says that heroes are chosen to calm the people's fears and fight the demon lord if he exists or comes back to life.
では、さらばだ。
変な奴らじゃ。
Then Momfi walked to Sayato's party and apologized for Kaints' disrespectful treatment. Momfi introduced himself to Sayato's party, and he hoped that Sayato's party could cooperate in the future. When Momfi made Sayato shake hands, Emerald suddenly shouted. Emerald said that Momfi was wearing a paralyzing poison needle in his hand. He purposely got acquainted like that to reduce the number of participants who would enter the dungeon today. Of course, Momfi immediately ran away from there. He was also chased by other adventurers all the way into the dungeon. Sayato thanked Emerald for saving him. Emerald said that adventurers had to work together to be fair, and she hated people like Momfi. Emerald warned Sayato's party that the treasures and monsters would be taken if they were late exploring the labyrinth, especially the party that had just come out of this dungeon. They had quickly defeated the legendary monster. Well, they were the Prime Minister and the Demon King disguised as a knight. Then Emerald said goodbye to Sayato's party as she and her friend entered the dungeon first. She also wanted Sayato's party to have a fair fight later if they accidentally targeted the same treasure chest. After Emerald left, Railza said that Emerald was a very powerful elven knight. If she were to compete against Emerald, surely Railza would have a hard time beating her. Railza also admitted that the party that fought the legendary monster was the strongest now. By the way, when talking about the strongest, the Power Wizard didn't participate in the exploration of the new labyrinth. Well, that was because he couldn't bring the Tree God's staff into the dungeon like this. A few hours later, Sayato's party found the treasure chest and fought the turtle monster. But unfortunately, Morlock was hit by an attack from a monster, which caused him to fall asleep for some time. Sayato and Lafa were trying to wake up Morlock, and Railza had to protect them first.
モーロックさん全然起きないぞ。
あれじゃしばらくは足手まといだ。
The turtle monster was defeated by Liliza. Then Liliza and Gibble introduced themselves to Sayato's party. Liliza also asked them for the treasure chest there. Then Sayato's party allowed them because they had already defeated the monster and had the right to own this treasure chest. Gibble is both a wizard and a thief, so he can use his abilities to unlock this treasure. Liliza is very happy because she has a friend with this skill. After a few minutes, Gibble struggled to open the padlock because the lock pattern was too complicated. Because of that, Sayato offered to help them. Of course, Liliza underestimated Sayato's abilities because Gibble, a great thief, couldn't open this chest. After hearing that, Railza was a bit irritated that the most precious Sayato in her party was belittled by Liliza.
うちのサイトを舐めてもらっちゃ困るの。あんたのでしょ。
When Sayato was trying to open the padlock, Liliza always looked at Sayato's handsome face.
超タイプ。あんたの。
Liliza knew that Sayato perfectly met Gibble's couple criteria. Of course, Gibble blushed because Liliza knew about that. After Sayato managed to open the padlock, the treasure chest contained many expensive diamonds. Sayato was happy that Liliza and Gibble had gotten this luxurious item. Hearing that, Gibble's heart pounded even more because he had fallen in love with Sayato.
礼儀正しい人だな。
ライバル出現じゃん。
Several days later, Sayato was accidentally separated from his friends. When Sayato traced the passage he had passed, he saw Momfi, who had gotten lost and separated from the hero's party. Then Sayato approached Momfi and told him not to explore this labyrinth alone. If Momfi's location changed, his friends would also have difficulty finding him. Then Momfi was a little annoyed with Sayato because he was too friendly to Momfi. Momfi also knew that Sayato was a weakling, and Sayato would definitely be able to enter the party since he was skilled at cajoling or teasing others. After hearing that, Sayato took Momfi's words casually, and Momfi grew even more irritated with Sayato. Then Momfi made a magic barrier so he could defend himself from the monster's attacks. He reasoned that he had no mana left and would not cast this magic barrier on Sayato. Sayato still responded casually to Momfi's behavior. He even took the holy water that Lafa made so he could create a magic barrier like Momfi. Of course, Momfi was even more irritated and confused. How could Sayato keep holy water for so long? Saito replied that he made a silver flask to contain and preserve this holy water. After hearing that, Momfi just found out that there was a way to store holy water like this. Several hours later, Saito felt hungry and wanted to eat something. Of course, Momfi had secretly eaten the lunch he had brought and didn't want to share this meal with Saito. But when Momfi glanced at Saito, Momfi was surprised because Saito had brought some food, and his food was tastier than Momfi's. Momfi was curious, why doesn't food like that go stale? Exploring dungeons takes hours or even a whole day. Saito said that his food stock had been enchanted with preservation magic, so it would never go stale as long as the magic was still active. Saito also offered his food to Momfi because he saw Momfi drooling like this. Of course, Momfi was shocked because Saito's behavior was completely unaffected by Momfi's crimes. Then Momfi deliberately refused Saito's offer and reasoned that the food must have contained poison prepared for Momfi as retribution for Momfi's actions at that time. In Momfi's mind, he was aware of the evil treatment he had been due to other people. As long as Momfi couldn't trust his friend, he would continue to behave like this. Momfi didn't want others to mock and belittle him like they used to. Before long, Railza and the others finally found Saito after so many hours. They were very worried about him, and Saito said that the holy water Lafa made helped him a lot. Lafa didn't expect that Saito would be able to find something that could guard the holy water. Then Kane suddenly shouted for Momfi and rushed over to him. Railza says that Kane coincidentally met them without the beautiful witch, Lychee. Kane shouted at Momfi because he was so worried about Momfi. They're friends, so Momfi shouldn't feel like he's always alone.
いいやつだな、勇者様。弱いけど。
After that, they found another treasure chest, and Railza tried to fight the monster. This time Railza could attack it because the monster didn't have any protection like the turtle. But when Railza wanted to kill the monster, suddenly Anril killed the monster first, and she was about to take the treasure chest. Of course, Railza was enraged that she could kill the monster alone. The treasure chest belonged to Railza's party because Anril had suddenly seized this monster. Then Anril didn't feel taking the monster from Railza. She saw Railza having a hard time killing it.
戦いで蹴りをつけるか？
望むところだ。
権利を主張し合ってる。
どっちも譲らんの。
They will duel for the treasure chest. Nenia had said that fighting between adventurers was not permitted within the labyrinth. If their fight was discovered by someone else, and they reported it to the kingdom, Saito and Anril's party would be fined and banned from entering the labyrinth forever. But Anril ignored Nenia's words because this duel had already been agreed upon by the two adventurers. Then they make a promise contract in advance so that there will be no grudges between them if one dies. In Saito's mind, he saw Anril's claws that probably wouldn't be able to deal with a fatal wound to Railza. Railza's armor was stronger and thicker than Anril's claws. Then the battle begins. It turned out that Anril was targeting Railza's body, which had thin armor. Meanwhile, Railza couldn't follow Anril's agility. Because of that, Railza would be wearing the second set of armor that Saito had made back then. She also changed her weapon to a small dual sword like assassin style. But after Railza had removed some of her armor, an unexpected event occurred. Beautiful view. Wait, there is another scene so you can be satisfied seeing it. Then their battle stopped because Saito had to repair Railza's armor immediately. Nenia is relieved that Anril wants to relent from this duel, and the treasure chest remains with Railza's party. Nenia doesn't want Anril to kill people anymore, especially against Railza's party. Then Anril said that Nenia's words were true, because if Anril continued the previous duel, she would definitely be killed by Railza. Then Nenia cried because she didn't want Anril to die. Nenia still couldn't use the resurrection spell, and it was too far to walk to the church if they were exploring the deepest dungeons. The atmosphere turned romantic because Anril blushed after hearing Nenia's words. Even Nenia also hugged Anril and wanted to continue with her like this. But suddenly,
何してんだ。
やっぱうちの方が多すぎるんじゃないか。
on the other hand, the Prime Minister and the Demon King were resting around the urban forest. The Prime Minister had actually retired from adventurer work, but the King still ordered him to join this dungeon exploration. The king and prime minister had heard rumors that there was a legacy of a great time-controlling wizard there. The witch also said that there was something that anyone with good intentions should take and not let fall into the hands of bad people. Then the demon king was surprised that the prime minister said such a thing in front of him. The demon king still belongs to the evil person category, and the prime minister should be able to understand. Then the prime minister said that he trusted the demon king. After all, the demon king is the king's friend, so the prime minister need not worry. But suddenly, the unexpected happened. They were sneakily attacked by Kisurugi, and Kisurugi ordered Primas to burn them. Primas must use the highest level of fire magic so they can't get up again because their essence of life has disappeared. It turns out that the Prime Minister and the Demon King managed to escape from Kisurugi. The Prime Minister used his teleportation magic randomly as quickly as possible. He still has consciousness after being stabbed by Kisurugi. He and the Demon King also had help from the shrine they teleported to. The Prime Minister apologized to the king because he had been negligent in his duties, whereas the Demon King took a long time to recover himself. Then the king didn't mind that and ordered the Prime Minister to rest immediately tonight. The king didn't expect a ninja could defeat a Prime Minister. Then the king was interested in a new dungeon trending among adventurers. Initially, the king wanted to join in exploring the dungeon, but he withdrew his intention. The king did not want other countries to go to war because he explored and mastered dungeons alone. Several days later, Sayato's party returned to explore the new dungeon further and deeper. This passage has no monsters because it's only a branching road. Then suddenly, Sayato heard the sound of the vacuum robot again, and he immediately chased after it. Likewise, Sayato's friends came after him because Sayato still had to be protected by them. After running quite a distance following the vacuum robot, Sayato discovered a shocking fact in this world. There were many objects that came from Sayato's world, and this made Sayato very surprised. Then suddenly, Prisma used her light magic, and Kisurugi was about to kill Sayato. Luckily, Railza was able to save Sayato in time. But unfortunately, Railza's shadow was caught by Kisurugi, and Railza couldn't move her body, including Sayato's, when Kisurugi was about to kill them. Jibungle managed to save them. Jibungle tells them that Kisurugi and Prisma are the ones who often ambush and kill adventurers in secret. He didn't expect that Kisurugi could still survive the previous level 3 fire attack. Railza and Sayato thank Jibungle for saving them. Morlock apparently only got there after the battle, and he was confused by this cave filled with foreign objects. Then Jibungle was surprised because he finally got to meet Morlock face to face now.
20年間ずっと探しておりました。
知り合いなのか？
お前はお久しぶりです。
知らん。
Then they chatted briefly in the hallway earlier. It turns out that Morlock doesn't know Jibungle because Morlock lost his memory long ago. Jibungle explains that Morlock is the strongest and most famous sage in the Far East. His title is a great sage. 20 years ago, Morlock set out on an adventure searching for a forbidden spell. But sadly, Morlock never went back east again. Jibungle had seen Morlock at the Labyrinth dungeon entrance before, and now he had the chance to meet Morlock in person. Railza was shocked after hearing the story. 20 years ago was a time when Railza met Morlock yet. Morlock explained that he didn't remember anything about his past, other than Morlock's name and the magic he had. Lafa also said that Morlock's magic has been taking less damage lately. Upon hearing this, Jibungle said that Morlock's name was a pseudonym used to seduce women. After all, Railza and her friends were impolite to call Morlock the stupid old man. Morlock was a famous man and was always surrounded by women. Jibungle also mentions that Morlock's nickname is the Great Sage Belgame. But when Jibungle wants to tell them Morlock's full name, The story goes back many years when Primas, a black crystal fairy, was being chased by adventurers. The black crystal fairy is beautiful, like the moonlight fairy, but the black crystal fairy population is few. Adventurers are after Primas because she is a rare fairy. If they sell her, they can earn a lot of money. Because of that, Primas really hates adventurers. Then Primas deliberately added weight to make her fat so the adventurers wouldn't chase her. But Prima's efforts are in vain because adventurers still target her. In fact, it was difficult for Primas to escape due to her body being too fat. Then when the adventurers caught Primas, Lavella came and saved Primas. Lavella accidentally discovered this incident after a few days when she was first attacked by Kisurugi. Primas thanked her, and since then, Primas has been living with Lavella at her house. Lavella's house is very small, far from the city, and is only inhabited by her. Lavella is a witch who is around 400 years old and used to living there alone. Lavella is alive and young like this because she has been cursed. Back to the present. Kisurugi, Fred, Gred, and Prisma were fighting Saito's party. Lafa has already healed Jibungle and will join in fighting Kisurugi's party now.
俺の拳を止めるとは魔法で
モーロックさん
爆裂熱気をやるぞおっしゃ
Gred used his magic against Saito, Jibungle, and Morlock. Jibungle wants Morlock to use magic as soon as possible, because Jibungle won't be able to withstand this attack continuously. Then Saito advised Morlock to use whatever magic has the greatest damage. Saito had memorized all the magic spells possessed by Morlock. Then Morlock asked Saito's help to cast the 7 lightning magic spells. After that, Morlock started casting his magic on Gred.
影を踏まれると動けなくなるわ。
Luckily, Saito survived thanks to Gibble, a burly sage and thief expert who likes Saito. Gibble used cloning magic to substitute for Saito's body before he died. Then when Fred wanted to attack Liliza and Gibble, Anril and Ninia came to help Saito's party. When Gred wanted to attack Anril and Railza, it turned out that the hero party also came there. Everyone had followed Saito's party from a distance before. They were worried that something would happen to Saito's party, especially Saito, who first discovered this new labyrinth. Now Kisurugi's party was under pressure because their opponents were too many. Initially, Kisurugi wanted to withdraw from the battle, but Ninia and Lafa would not allow them to escape. Ninia and Lafa immediately cast the heaven magic spell so that Fred and Gred could disappear instantly. Initially, Prisma wanted to thwart their spell, but Lychee attacked Prisma, and Lychee became Prisma's opponent now. Fred immediately approached Prisma to help her, and it turned out that Ninia and Lafa had finished chanting the heaven magic spell. When the magic was released towards Fred and Gred, suddenly, the story goes back to a few days or weeks ago, when Kisurugi was looking for Lavella, who had not been seen in the city, desert, or anywhere for a long time. Kisurugi is accompanied by Fred and Gred, who are precious demon friends that Kisurugi has. Kisurugi had killed many people for money, and his role in this world was included in the crime category. So Kisurugi only deserved to be friends with demon races like Fred and Gred. Kisurugi really loves Lavella, so he looks everywhere for Lavella. Then he finally found a clue that Lavella lived in a small house far from the city. But when Kisurugi entered Lavella's house, everything there was destroyed and messy. Then Kisurugi entered another room, and a grandmother was lying limp. Kisurugi was surprised because he realized that the grandmother was Lavella. Then Primas appeared and told something that Kisurugi didn't know. Lavella was once given magic to never grow old from a demon. But sadly, another witch killed the demon, and the magic was still in Lavella's body. Because the demon had been killed, the magic became a curse that would not go away. Lavella must fall in love with a man to lift the curse. This is the only way for Lavella's body to return to normal. Of course, Kisurugi was shocked after hearing Prima's story. That meant Lavella had fallen in love with him from the first time they kissed. Primas had also been told by Lavella that she was in love with Kisurugi. Lavella says that Primas doesn't need to worry about this curse. After all, Lavella had lived for a very long time, and it was time to die with her feelings of love. Even so, Kisurugi still felt guilty because he fell in love with Lavella without knowing her background. Kisurugi was very sad because he would soon lose Lavella. Kisurugi really loves Lavella so much. Then Primas said there was a way to cure Lavella's current condition. In the kingdom's new labyrinth, there is a legacy of a time-controlling sage. Kisurugi must ask for help to him so that Lavella can survive. Back to the present. Originally, Kisurugi and Saito wanted to end this battle. Kisurugi already involved his friends to fight only for selfishness of Kisurugi. While Saito said that this battle had a clear outcome, Kisurugi lost. But Kisurugi and Saito's friends still wanted to continue the battle. Kisurugi's party had killed many adventurers suddenly. This cannot be ignored. Meanwhile, Primas still stubbornly wants to save Lavella, her precious friend. Then Primas immediately cast magic to summon the power of the demon god to fight them. Primas also ordered Kisurugi to eat Prima's wings so he could have extraordinary strength. The wings contained immense mana, but Kisurugi couldn't do that because Primas was also a precious friend. If this continues, Prima's life will be at stake. Because of that, Primas was forced to tear her wings, and Primas's strength was many times stronger. Then Primas immediately cast a dark magic spell to kill Saito and his friends.
黒き翼を捧げる。
Kisurugi's party summoned the demon god's power and joined forces with the demon eye statue. Rails asks Saito to get another big shield, but Saito says he doesn't have another big shield and only one spare small shield. Then the demon eyes statue attacked them again, and everyone took cover in separate groups. The defense of Saito's friends only relies on shields and magic barriers. Meanwhile, the demon eyes statue continued to attack them without stopping. Then Saito immediately suggested another magic to Morlock. Of course, Morlock cast his magic with Saito's help again.
Yattaka.
It turned out that the statue of the demon eyes could not be defeated. Even the statue is not affected by Morlock's magic. Then the demon eyes started attacking them again, and the attacks were much more brutal than before. Railsa tries to get Jibungle to attack the eyes directly using the crossbow, but sadly, the eyes could blink, and an attack like this couldn't defeat it.
まずい。魔力が尽きたら防げなくなる。この火力じゃ近づけない。
Then Saito suggested time-stopping magic to Morlock. Saito couldn't fluently read the writings of this world yet, but at least Saito could remember some of the words from the magic. Of course, Morlock was surprised because Saito shouldn't know about the secret magic. Saito says he found it behind the sweet mushrooms Morlock used to suck with Railsa. The paper contained a magic spell to stop time, and Saito had been trying to memorize it. Not only was the magic stopping time, but the paper also contained summoning magic that could break through time and space, manipulate time, link worlds, travel through time, etc. At that moment, Saito realized that it was most likely Morlock who transferred Saito to this world. Morlock is a time control wizard. On the other hand, Saito's other friends do not withstand the attacks of the demon eyes. Even Jibungle's shield had begun to melt. Then Morlock said that the magic spell to stop time was very long. Morlock wasn't sure he could cast it to the end, especially if it was a magic he hadn't used in a long time. Then Saito convinced Morlock because Saito memorized a few secret magic words. Saito can also do something when Morlock has successfully used his magic later. Morlock apologizes because he doesn't remember the incident back then, whether he transferred Saito to this world or not. Then Saito apologizes to Morlock because he messed up Morlock's memory. Saito tells Morlock to focus on the time-stopping magic first. If it was true that Morlock was the one who transferred Saito to this world, their friendship wouldn't change one bit. Then Jibungle estimates that Morlock can stop time by about 100 seconds in a slow count. This amount of time depends on how long Morlock's incantation is. When the time has stopped, Morlock can attack the eyes with his greatest magic. Then Morlock will start preparations to use time-stopping magic with help from Saito. Jibungle used telepathic magic on everyone to tell this, so they should lure the eyes to attack in other directions as much as possible. If the demon's eye attack continues, the eyes will not be closed, and Morlock can attack it when time is stopped. Morlock and Saito will still be protected by Lafa. One more thing, Saito does something for Morlock so he won't forget later when the time has stopped. Then their plan finally began.
ライルザちゃん、イーブルとニニアちゃんを守って。やってる。光線を打たせろ。目を上げたまま。ジジイ、早くしろ。
彼方よりこなたへ。ダメだ、ここは任せろ。瞬きは永遠、永遠は刹那の孤独に。やることがあったような。
Morlock suddenly forgot about the situation, and the countdown in 100 seconds was going on. He looked at his surroundings, which stopped for no reason, and Morlock immediately called Saito to explain this. Of course, Saito couldn't hear Morlock's words. Then Morlock accidentally saw the writing on his palm. Turns out it was Saito's handwriting that he had previously written using a marker. Saito could write the language that existed in this world. Saito explains the situation Morlock is currently experiencing and what Morlock should do there. After reading that, Morlock was grateful because Saito was so useful and helped him all this time. Morlock finally remembered that he had to use his greatest magic to defeat the Evil Eye statue when time stopped. From here, Morlock also started to remember who he was and what spell he should use.
クロームの名において執行する。じゃあ、秘術で威力を高めれば7つの三日月。
When Morlock was about to release all of his magic power, he suddenly saw the memories of the Kisurugi party, from Kisurugi's friendship with the demons, kissing with Lavella, and Kisurugi meeting Primas. Even Morlock also saw Kisurugi's goal in coming to this labyrinth. Because of that, Morlock will lower his magic power and pull Kisurugi's party back so they can get out of the Demon Eyes statue form.
すまん。片付いたぞ。
The Demon Eyes statue is defeated, and Morlock's hand is severed due to forcing his magic power down. But Morlock's hand can still be reattached with magic. Then Morlock asked Lafa to heal Prima's wings first. One other wing might also exist among these ruins, so everyone should help look for it. The black crystal fairy wings were the most important part, as they could store enormous amounts of mana. But Lafa and the others hesitated because Kisurugi's party was Saito's party enemy. Morlock explained the memories he had seen from Kisurugi's party. Kisurugi only wanted to save the woman he loved. Likewise, Primas wanted to save the woman who had saved her. Then Railsa was very worried about Morlock's condition. This was the first time he had done this alone without anyone's help.
育ての親だもんな。
痛い。
Then they searched for Prima's wing together, and Saito found it first. Gibble and Lafa will help heal Primas, but Primas suddenly refused their help. He didn't want to owe kindness to other people who were friendly to humans. Primas really hates adventurers. Then Lafa said that Primas also accidentally befriended Kisurugi. So Primas is just like Lafa, friends with humans. Lafa and Gibble immediately use their magic to heal Primas. Kisurugi enlists the help of Railsa and the others to send Fred and Gred back to where they belong, the demon world. Kisurugi knew that after this, the kingdom would definitely execute him, so he didn't want to let Fred and Gred receive the same punishment. If Kisurugi ordered them to, they would not want to leave Kisurugi. Kisurugi never summoned them using magic. They just accidentally met Kisurugi and became friends. They even considered Kisurugi as their brother after they were defeated by Kisurugi. Kisurugi only wanted to find a time control wizard named Chrome here. Then Jibungle told Kisurugi that the wizard controlling time was Morlock. The original Morlock's real name is Belgame Chrome. Of course, Kisurugi was surprised to have just realized this. Jibungle also tells Kisurugi that Chrome is the highest level wizard from the east and has been given the title of the Great Sage. Jibungle suspects that Chrome's memory is fully back now. On Chrome's side, Momfi and Ninia will help connect Chrome's hands again. But Chrome asked Ninia to lick his hand as she did to Anril. Chrome heard that Ninia's saliva was a wound-healing magic catalyst. Of course, Ninia was disgusted that she didn't want to do that to Chrome. Chrome was still forcing Ninia with lecherous looks, but suddenly Momfi offered to lick Chrome's hand until he was satisfied. Momfi wants to protect Ninia from perverted Chrome. After Chrome's hand was successfully connected, Chrome wanted to hold Ninia's boobs because they looked tempting. After all, Chrome wants to test whether this hand is connected.
ニニアちゃん、おっぱいを揉ませてくれ。
嫌です。
ニニアちゃんまだ痛いよ。節操の鼻を揉むと良いでしょう。
彼女を救えるというのか。
Suddenly, there is a magic sword that will kill Kisurugi. It turned out that the sword had come from the Demon King disguised as a knight. The Prime Minister said that the fate of the Kisurugi party rested in his hand. Then when the Demon King wanted to kill Kisurugi, Gred suddenly protected him. Fred and Gred had recovered from their stupor and were going to fight the knight and the Prime Minister now. Gred could heal himself later. When Fred comes face to face with the knight, he remarks that weak humans can't defeat the demonic forces. Of course, the Demon King in disguise was enraged, and when he revealed his disguise to everyone, it turns out that the Demon King is Fred and Gred's uncle named Dorg. By the way, Fred and Gred aren't the original names. I only gave them names before. Fred and Gred's real names were just announced in episode 7, Terfon and Aberez. One more thing, the Prime Minister still hides his real identity now, so only the Demon King took off his disguise. Terfon was surprised to meet his uncle here. He had thought that Dorg was still trying to rule over some of the kingdoms in the human world. Dorg, or the Demon King, said he was already defeated by the king in this kingdom. Of course, Terfon was shocked because Dorg was so much weaker than humans. That means Dorg has been defeated by humans twice. Kisurugi defeated Dorg last time. Of course, Dorg reasoned that he didn't have time to bring out his power. Then Dorg asked, "What are you doing in this dungeon, Terfon?" Terfon replied that he was accompanying Kisurugi. Terfon and Gred had also been defeated by Kisurugi at that time. They purposely follow Kisurugi everywhere because Kisurugi is crueler than demons in general. After hearing the story of their encounter, Saito asked the others how many people had Kisurugi's party killed. Lafa replied that some people had already been revived in the church, but there were 2 people who suddenly disappeared and no bodies were found by the adventurers. Those 2 people are the Demon King and the Prime Minister. Then Saito thought they could still live without the church's help. If they pardoned Kisurugi, he would not be put to death. Then Lafa was shocked after hearing Saito's words. Kisurugi's party had wanted to kill Saito before, but Saito could still think like that. Saito says that he doesn't mind about it. After all, Kisurugi had a good purpose in coming to this dungeon. Then they discussed it together about Levella. Kisurugi wanted Chrome to save Levella with time magic. Chrome says that he can't use magic to turn back time, and can only use magic to stop time. Then Chrome gives a signal to Jibungle. After seeing that, Jibungle was sure that Chrome's memory was completely back. Then Chrome said that there was a mage who was more powerful than him. He could use turn-back magic and should be able to save Levella. Even his knowledge surpasses human thought. But sadly, the mage doesn't exist in this world because he travels to various worlds. He was tired and bored in this world, so he wants to explore the whole world and seek pleasure using time and space magic. Chrome was sure that person had done a lot of experiments in this place, including summoning objects or things from other worlds to this world. Chrome had no idea which world the mage was headed to. The demon world, the spirit world, the other worlds, or maybe he's visiting Saito's world right now, so Kisurugi would never find the mage. Then the Prime Minister said that Levella could be saved. Chrome is curious about the Prime Minister's abilities because Chrome only looks at which streams are too small. Even Chrome thought that the Prime Minister was a level 1 mage. The Prime Minister said that he had friends who could save Lavella, but there is one necessary condition for casting this magic spell. Sacrifice the lives of one person closely associated with Lavella. Lafa heard rumors that this magic only gods can cast. Of course, Kisurugi was willing to give his life so that Lavella could survive. Terfon and Aberez wanted Kisurugi to think about it again because they didn't want to lose him. Even Primas wanted to replace Kisurugi, but Kisurugi still wanted to do it because there was no way to save Lavella. After all, Primas also wouldn't be able to replace Lavella's life with such a tiny body. Instead of Kisurugi being hanged by the kingdom, it would be better for him to die like this. At least Lavella could live, and Kisurugi's death wouldn't be in vain. This is a form of true love from Kisurugi to Lavella. Then the Prime Minister said that if everyone here concealed the crimes of Kisurugi's party, the royal side would no longer seek their whereabouts. After hearing that, everyone agreed because Kisurugi's only goal was to save the woman he loved, especially Jibungle and Saito. Jibungle knows that the Prime Minister is related to the King of Madaraka, so he believed that the Prime Minister could do it. Meanwhile, Saito understands Kisurugi's feelings. He wants to save someone precious by sacrificing his life. Then Saito glanced at Railza, and most likely Saito realized that Railza had kissed him. Saito didn't completely faint that time. Then the Prime Minister was surprised because his identity was known by Jibungle. After that, Primas and Chrome immediately returned Terfon and Aberez to the demon world. Before Kisurugi died, he asked Saito, "Who are you? Why dress like that?" Kisurugi saw that Saito was the weakest person in the group. But Saito had been the main focus of all the previous attacks. If Saito wasn't there, Kisurugi's party would have won the previous battle. Kisurugi suspected Saito was an assassin from other kingdoms he didn't know about. Then Saito replied that he was just a handyman and an ordinary person who didn't have any powers.
便利や。そうか。
The story goes back to when Chrome still had a family. Chrome loves his daughter, and his daughter also loves Chrome. She even made a necklace with the letters C, R, and M. Of course, Chrome was very happy to receive the necklace. Chrome is sure that his daughter will become a great person. I'm going to call her Lydia because Chrome's daughter's name is not explained in the anime. Lydia wants Chrome to be home today to play with her, but Chrome has to work and continue his research on magic. Soon Chrome will become a powerful sage and can improve the economy. Chrome's family is very poor, so Chrome must try his best to reach the highest title. But one day, Lydia was sick with a high fever and wanted to meet Chrome now. Chrome's wife, I'll call her Yuri, said that Chrome would be home soon. Shortly after, Chrome came home, took the magic book, and wanted to return to work. Yuri said Chrome had not stayed home for a long time, every morning until night. She wanted Chrome to pay attention to Lydia, who was sick now. But Chrome said that he had asked the healer from the temple to treat Lydia, so Chrome will still work without stopping. It is only one step away from Chrome being able to receive the title of the Great Sage. If Chrome had become a Great Sage, he could have brought Yuri and Lydia to a more proper place and home. Not only that, but their economy would change drastically as well. However, Yuri still wanted Chrome to stay for a while tonight to accompany Lydia, because she had been waiting for Chrome for days. But Chrome still wanted to continue his work, and promised to accompany Lydia tomorrow morning. The next day, Chrome obtained the title of the Great Sage and was about to take Yuri and Lydia elsewhere. But Chrome was shocked after seeing Lydia die in bed. Yuri said that Lydia had a sudden high fever overnight. When Yuri brought Lydia to the temple, no one healed her there. They also couldn't bring Lydia to the church to be resurrected because it would cost a lot. If Chrome had been at home last night, Lydia's life could have been saved by him. Lydia had been holding the necklace she had made for her father all night. After hearing that, Chrome was very depressed because he had been a bad father. Yuri also took Lydia's corpse and went on a journey alone. Chrome started to get angry with himself and threw all the magic books he had mastered. The title of Great Wizard meant nothing to him now. He wanted to improve his poor family's economy, but in reality, Chrome actually received bitter incidents like this. Chrome feels guilty and sinful for indirectly killing his own daughter. But suddenly, Chrome saw that there was a magic book that he had never read. There was magic in returning time to the past. The location is a kingdom's large labyrinth dungeon. After reading that, Chrome immediately put on the necklace his daughter made and went to the labyrinth, according to the book. The knights there said that this labyrinth was difficult to explore alone, so they suggested Chrome bring a few more people. But Chrome didn't care what they said, and immediately paid 1 gold coin according to the entry fee. Chrome spent hours tracing the labyrinth, and he found a place just like the one in the book. Then Chrome immediately opened the wall magic barrier and entered the place where foreign objects or items from other worlds were. Chrome was surprised because it was his first time seeing something like this. Chrome also found some sheets of paper containing various time magic spells. After Chrome reads the paper's contents, he can't find the magic to turn back time. But suddenly, a wizard appeared behind Chrome. I'll call him the White Mage. Chrome knew the White Mage was making all the magic spells this time, so Chrome begs him to teach the magic turn back time. He wanted to save his dead daughter. Then the White Mage said he could grant Chrome's wish if Chrome could defeat him. Due to that, Chrome saved the White Mage's paper first and will fight him now. The White Mage acknowledged the power that Chrome had. He was bored because he had not found an opponent like Chrome in this world for a long time. After this, he will go time traveling to different worlds. Then the White Mage said that he would grant Chrome's wish, but not through a magic spell to turn back time. But the White Mage will erase Chrome's memory. Most of his memories will be gone, especially the Chrome family. After the White Mage erased Chrome's memory, Chrome spent hours out of the dungeon in a limp state. The knights immediately helped Chrome and asked for his name, family, and where he lived. Of course, Chrome doesn't remember anything. When he looked at his necklace, there were letters M, R, and C. Because of that, Chrome thought his name was Morlock and started traveling again under that name. As viewers, we know that Chrome is holding Lydia's necklace upside down. From then on, Chrome is more likely to forget something and never remember it again if no one helps remind it, including magic spells, places of foreign items or objects from other worlds, and all the events that Saito's party has experienced. The mage that Chrome was referring to before was a White Mage, but Chrome couldn't mention this to Kisurugi because Chrome didn't know anything about the White Mage either.